So who's starting it? You are? Yeah.
No, you guys made fun of me last time when I started, so go ahead.
No, you said you would do it. You have a surprise.
Billy, go ahead, dude.
Welcome back to another episode of Shots Fired
Like the interview.
Well done, dude.
Yeah.
Well done.
Is that satisfactory?
Well, the last time I did it,
the last time you did, you're like, welcome back to another episode of the Shots Fired podcast.
Extremes right here.
You know what? Listen, this is episode 25. Let's just get it started, okay? All Start the intro.
We're ready.
Yeah, let's go.
Hey, for another shot fired. Copy additional shot fired. Shot fired. Shot fired. Shooting at us. Suspect shooting an officer. Suspect down. He's at the base of the stairs. White t-shirt, white male.
Coming to you from Northern California.
Negative K. Nothing further. Just
This is the Shots Fired podcast.
Back on the town property case, and I'll be 76.
With your hosts, Sergeant Kyle Schoberg, retired police officer Mark Redlich, and Deputy Billy. We are America's leading law enforcement resource for training and tactics from experts in the industry. Here are your hosts.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, if you're wondering who we have in the studio, it's our good friend, my good friend, Patrick. Long history with him. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Well, so you do have quite an extensive background. So we did have an overwhelming response to our topic of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu within law enforcement and that integration. And with that, we decided, well, we need to bring someone in that's got a lot of experience. So you do have a lot of experience, and I know you're really humble and you don't want to share it.
I have some experience.
You have some. So you have an amateur background in Muay Thai, in which you have won quite a bit of competitions and traveled a lot, right?
Traveled some. I've won a couple amateur titles.
Okay, amateur titles. And then you also have a boxing background, which I know you've done Battle of the Badges. That's law enforcement competitions, right?
Yes.
And then you also have a jiu-jitsu background.
Yes.
And then within that, you've also, within the large Northern California agency that you worked for, also with a group of other officers, helped create a defensive tactics class that is the first post-certified class for the state of California. And then we'll get into that in just a little bit. Am I right on that with the
I helped co-author the first defensive tactics class that was post-approved, a 40-hour course that we got approved through our agency, approved through post, and
that's a big deal.
Longest in-house class they have going still.
Nice. All right. So we'll get into that, but right before we start that, let's hear a word from TAC Ops. We're proud to announce we've partnered with our new sponsor, TAC Ops. TAC Ops tactical training conferences and trade shows provide tactical training for patrol, SWAT, TIMS, and corrections. This year's events will host 50 tracks to choose from and a vendor show with over 100 exhibitors showcasing the latest products, technologies, and services. These events have something for everyone, from lecture-based classes and incident debriefs to combative and live fire courses. They also provide instructor certifications in taser, pepperball, distraction devices, impact munitions, OC chemical munition, and an AR-15 armor course. In addition to the great training value, they host networking functions with entertainment and some great food and drinks. The events for 2022 are listed in the description. Please check out their websites, swatconference.org. All right, so now that we heard of TAC Ops, make sure you check out swatconference.org. They got a conference coming up in the middle of April, or the end of April, and then one coming up the end of, what is it?
I think it's August.
Yeah, hopefully
in August. Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville. Maybe we'll actually go to that one.
Vegas.
Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
And then a shout out to Girls Barbecue. I actually cooked with that this weekend. Super good spices. If you haven't checked it out,
bam,
check it out online and order their product.
What'd you cook?
Hamburgers, actually. And I put the spices on it. And then I was just telling them what was even better is I made just pasta with ground beef and then Alfredo sauce, and then I used a bunch of the jalapeno flavor and mixed that together, and it was phenomenal.
That sounds good. Yeah. No, it's fantastic flavor. I mean, when we've said it the last 3 episodes, it's great. Like, I mean, it's super good. You can use it for a variety of different cooking stuff. So go check them out.
Yeah.
Girlsbarbecue.com.
And actually, under that, there's a box. Patrick, you got that box?
Yeah,
That's for you.
So we got a gift for you for being a guest here on the show.
Careful, it's breakable.
Yeah. Tight squeeze, dude.
Careful.
Here, dude. Let me move your mic here.
Should I open it?
Yeah, open it.
Well, yeah, dude. That's what we're doing.
Awesome.
All right.
Mark every time I see Mark, he's wearing his.
Show
I've
everybody
asked him several times.
Show everybody your
how I'm able to get it, and he said
your shots fired hoodie here.
Buy it? You do have to buy that.
It's an exclusive club. Yeah, he's probably gonna bill me later.
We actually have we've got our new logo, our sponsor on the on the sleeve.
So we can get the mic in there.
Yeah. So there you have it. It's got the TAC Ops.
Unless you want to save the box.
No, we can get rid of that.
Somebody might use it for the next guest.
Yeah, we probably will. We actually use that for the last one.
Worn out.
We'll spray paint it so it's a different color.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, dude. Oh, and happy birthday.
Yeah.
No, seriously, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the invite.
So before we kick it off, I do have some icebreaker questions just to kind of get the blood flowing and the brains kind of working here. So let me
good luck over here.
Now
Billy's at an idle too.
These questions are for all of you guys. Now don't cheat, Mark.
Well,
you're a cheater, dude. I noticed that last episode. Patrick, since you're our guest, I'll ask you first, and then we'll move on to Billy and Mark. I only have a few questions here just to kind of kick this off. So question number 1, you ready?
Go ahead.
All right, let's make sure we got the mic here.
Go ahead.
You good to go?
Yeah.
All right. Question number 1 is movies. Out of the following movies, I'm going to ask you what would be your number 1 rated movie. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Are you a movie guy?
Yeah.
All right.
And a music guy, an 80s rock
80s music. Yeah.
legend.
SWAT, the movie SWAT. Okay, the new one. Starsky and Hutch, or The Other Guys. Those 3 police movies. Which one are you going with? Number 1.
They're all horrible. The Other Guys.
Okay, why is that? Because it's funny?
Yeah, because you watch SWAT and you still laugh at that, and it's not really made to be a comedy.
Okay, all right.
So,
all right. That would be actually my number 1 pick too. So
The Other Guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
Mark.
mine too. Those other ones are garbage.
Okay.
That's an easy question.
Yeah.
Dude, Starsky and Hutch is pretty good. Whatever.
Nah.
The
All right.
one with
You guys
Ben
are haters.
Stiller?
Yeah, you haters.
Snoop Dogg was in it. I like the Snoop Dogg.
All right, so we're going with The Other Guys. All right, cool.
You gonna
We
read
all
this question that you wrote down, or are you just going to try and make something up?
what?
You couldn't figure out how to ask the question last time when you wrote it down.
Well,
Just read it.
Mark, just go with the flow, dude. Okay.
Who's
This
going to? Who's this question for?
Dude, I'm asking all of you guys a question,
okay,
but
okay.
Patrick goes first.
Oh, okay.
He's the guest.
Okay.
All right.
So
this is
on him.
yes. All right. This is
This
characters.
is how we treat our guests.
Yeah. We give him a sweatshirt. And then,
characters
right
out
in
of a
the fire.
movie. Characters out of a movie. Maverick from Top Gun, Jason Bourne, or James Bond.
which James Bond?
Oh.
Fuck, you had to ask me that. Let's go with the newest version.
I didn't see the newest one. I know, what's his name? Craig.
Yeah, the actor.
Yeah. Guy's married to Rachel Weisz or whatever. I don't, for the life of me, I can't think of his last name. I go with him.
So you want to pick James Bond?
That James Bond, yeah.
Okay.
The old one or the new one?
The new one.
The newest. Yeah, the newest one.
Who plays
I can't remember what his name is, but
Daniel Craig?
Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
okay. So that's who you're choosing. All right, Billy, how about you?
Oh, I'll take Sean Connery, James Bond, if I'm allowed to pick.
Okay, I guess we're picking what James. Yes, you can pick that. Go
I
ahead.
can pick that?
Yeah. You want to be James Bond?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
If not, I mean, like Maverick seems pretty cool too, because
Fuck yeah,
I
Maverick.
always wanted to fly a jet.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm
it
thinking.
seems like that was a lot of work. Like you have to learn to fly a jet. I just want to fly a jet. I don't want to do all the work going up to it.
I would.
Who's yours?
Maverick. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, mine would be Maverick too.
Yeah.
I like it. All right,
Some
cool.
says you wouldn't pass a school, but that's fine.
I mean, fucking who doesn't want to fly a jet fighter pilot?
I think like Charlie Sheen in what was that?
Garbage
Hot
Man?
Shots.
pilot? Yeah,
Topper Harley. That's what I'm going with.
I don't know. I think his best movie was the Garbage Guys or Garbage. What's the Garbage?
Men at
movie?
Work.
Men at Work. Yeah, with Emilio.
Yes, that is awesome.
Little brotherly love there.
All right.
They shoot the guy with a pellet gun.
All right, last question. Which animal would you rather be? A wolf, a lion, or an eagle? A wolf, lion, or an eagle?
A wolf, because you're in the woods more.
Okay, so you're woods guy, outdoors guy?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I guess you could be an eagle too and still be in the woods.
Yeah, that's true.
Where they live.
Yeah. Billy?
I'd go wolf because I like the pack and in the woods. It seems like you got your homies with you and you got your protection.
Well, I just asked you before the show if my truck broke down, if you'd come pick me up, and you said no.
No, I'm a wolf. I leave you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You leave behind.
That's another story, but my truck. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Mark, what's your answer? A wolf, lion, or an eagle?
I'd go eagle.
Why?
Because they can fly and they're fucking badass.
Okay, like a bald eagle?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Have you ever been to Alaska?
No.
Okay. Eagles in Alaska are like straight up like pigeons here.
Really?
No shit.
Oh yeah, they're like you go to the dump in
they're everywhere
in like northern Alaska, and it's like bald eagles everywhere eating trash and
wow. There's a lake in
all over
Northern
the place.
California that has a couple of them, and we did like rented houseboats and camped on it. Mm-hmm. And dude, they were like next to our boat on the ground, and this thing was like 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Have you seen one in person?
Well, just the one on your tattoo. I thought you were gonna have to refer to your leg.
No,
to
dude.
see your
I
pic.
do have a huge eagle tattoo.
Dude, it goes
American
up his
flag,
thigh.
Yeah.
ankle all the way up high thigh.
I think you should have done in the middle of your body and the beak. Never mind. That's
the
a whole
wing
other story.
spread.
I was almost hoping you picked something else so I could.
Well,
No, I know because I know. I looked at you
I was
and
like, he better say the eagle. It's tattooed on his body. He's going to refer to his.
that's true. I forgot about that.
His favorite animal.
We actually said last episode that we wanted to make some new swag other than hoodies and stuff, and I think it was Mark that said he wanted jorts, and now I can see why.
jorts.
Yeah, jorts.
No, I think I wanted I still want the jorts.
Okay, well, whatever. We'll make some jorts, but Mark, you're gonna wear
Daisy
them.
Duke jorts.
Some Daisy Duke, so we can show your eagle, dude.
Speaking of clothing, who are you giving the shout out to that? You just sent somebody a material, some swag.
I sent a lot of stuff out, dude.
You did. There were quite a few people did.
Yeah, we did send quite a few hoodies out this week, so hope you guys all got them.
Should we get into this?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. We do want to give a couple listeners asked some questions this week because we have a guest. We want to get into this episode, so narrowed it down to 2 questions, and I think it'd be cool if all 3 of us gave our input on the question. The first one was, can you guys touch on getting hired for police and having a college degree or not? And does military help? I think maybe we touched on this before, but
You could revisit.
Everything helps. It's easy. Military definitely helps. College definitely helps. None of it is necessary.
Yeah, I like that answer.
Or none of it's needed.
It's not a... Well, so some agencies do require it.
Usually there's a lot of agencies in California that are requiring 60 units.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not even a degree. It's just credit.
Yeah, it's just units.
And for the most
units.
part, they're going to give preferential to people with bachelor's degrees.
Yeah.
But it is there's a lot of departments that it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But military, I think, is huge, and it helps, and it should help.
I agree with what you say. Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, like I ended up getting picked up with the 60 units, came back, got my degree when I was actually working.
You got a BA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ended up getting my bachelor's. But was that ideal? No, I wish I would have finished it prior. Because
Yeah, I feel you on that.
You get in the work mode, you start, everything starts bogging down, and then you just end up putting it off, and then it becomes
And then, at that point, it just becomes like like an annoying task that you just put off, So like, I agree with you. Like I started my degree and then I got hired when I was in college. So I dropped out of college, and to this day I have not gone back. And that was 15 years ago. So,
but there's some places there's an incentive to have that degree.
Most places there are. So I guess if you're asking if it's required, I mean, I don't know. Like some agencies do require it. Most don't. Do I think it's an absolute needed thing to be successful in your career? I don't. Now, the higher up the food chain you go and promoting and stuff, then
I think it's actually one of the dumbest requirements that law enforcement has ever done.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take street experience
versus street smarts.
Yeah, I'll take street.
The college degrees are completely worthless when it comes to law enforcement. But when it comes to getting hired, somebody's put a lot of weight in them, and they definitely help.
Yeah, so I don't know.
That's in my opinion.
I hope that answers.
My opinion's not going to help you.
I hope that answers your
What's
question.
your other one? What do you got?
Hang on here. And then just a quick shout out to Jason. Won't say his last name, but reached out to me a little while ago about some interview tips to be a dog handler. His agency posted a position. He wanted it. We chatted back and forth. I gave him some, I don't know, my own personal advice that I thought may help him out for his interview. And then he just messaged me today and said that he actually got the position. So we just wanted to say congratulations to you, dude. Being a dog handler for 7+ years, time of your life, get ready for some hard work. And it almost feels like you're starting all over again. But we just want to say congratulations to you, man. That's awesome. All right. Yeah. So let's jump into this here. The whole reason we have Patrick on the show today, again, we mentioned it, Mark mentioned it. Our last episode was, got a lot of attention on the jiu-jitsu topic for police. It is a huge topic that I think has come up in the last couple of years. And in your world, you've been doing it for how many years have you been doing
jiu-jitsu? About 10 years.
Okay. So in your world, it's obviously you've been doing it for so long, but would you agree that within like just the last couple of years, it seems like it's been more of a popular thing for police to be getting involved in?
Definitely. And I think there's several reasons for that. One, I think departments see the need for it because it is, if you look at like jiu-jitsu and wrestling, a lot of it is just, you take the submissions out of it. It's controlling. It's body movement. It's being able to control a subject. It's that familiarity, of trying to control someone who's possibly violent, and ultimately gaining control and getting them into custody. And a lot of that is just based off certain positioning and movements that you'll see a lot in jiu-jitsu and in wrestling.
Okay. So give everybody just kind of, I know Mark kind of gave you a little background of yourself, but how long were you in law enforcement? What were some of the assignments that you held? And ultimately, your fighting jiu-jitsu background with Muay Thai, like how did you get involved in that? And then what's your experience in that?
My background in law enforcement, I'm retired now. I was a little over 13 years. I was at a large agency, Northern California. Ended up doing patrol, had an assignment to crime suppression team a couple times. Ended up the last 5 years I spent on a full-time tactical team.
Okay, cool.
As far as Muay Thai, I started doing that, I don't know, it's probably early 20s. Started doing it. Started going to like the local shows. I was living out in the Midwest and going there, and you're like, okay, well, I think, or I've trained with that guy before. I think he just beat this guy. So it gets you working. You're like, oh, maybe I'll sign up for the next one. So started fighting. I think I had my first MMA fight. It was out there. They had like a local amateur series. I ended up, I think it was in 2000. So it was a while ago. Ended up competing in that. Won my first fight. It was like a 10-minute round.
All 10 minutes? Just 10 minutes, just go?
It was 10 minutes, yeah.
Damn, dude, that's fucking brutal.
So
I'm out.
It was one 10-minute round. I ended up winning with rear naked choke, like 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And like the next day I woke up and I was like, I thought I'd been in a car accident. I couldn't even get out of bed. Like I was fucked up. And, but it kind of, you start building off that. And, in there, you're like, I've got to do more striking. I've got to learn more jiu-jitsu. I got to start doing more. Because I was getting manhandled up until the point I won.
And this is obviously before you were a cop, right?
Yes.
Okay.
How long did you train before that fight? Like start to that, like 6 months, or was it years?
It was probably 6 months. It was, you used to go to the shows and watch it, and then you're like, got me going into it. And then you start out there. They had an amateur circuit. So they didn't have a boxing commission, so they could run amateur shows all the time. So like out here in California, they have a boxing commission, so it's all got to be regulated and everything else. So fighting out here was different than fighting like back in the Midwest in the early 2000s.
What skill or what did you take into that ring? What were you training in? Muay Thai?
No, I started like the place I was going to, they considered it like submission grappling. It wasn't Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based. It was a little bit of wrestling with a little bit of submission, but it was very watered down. But it kind of opened your eyes once you start branching out and going to these other places. You're like, okay, the place I'm training at isn't very good. So you need to make that next step. And making that next step, training with other guys, you kind of swallow your pride because now you're moving into, a bigger gym where guys are a lot better and you're starting from the bottom again. Mm-hmm.
So you won your first fight,
yes.
your first MMA amateur fight, and then kind of how did it progress from there? You're fighting.
It was just something that started out as a hobby. Still was. It was never I was never going to go pro or do anything like that. But it was, I'm spending that time in the gym. So I was like, well, why aren't, if I'm not training for a fight, then why am I training? Mm-hmm. I'm spending the time in the gym and it became like your social life too. So you're, my friends were at the gym. So, you're like, you show up there and you hang out, roll, you box and hang out with your buddies and do it again the next day. And it was like, it became more of a social life than anything else. So that part of, a lot of people think, oh, you gotta be angry to fight or to box. And it's like, no, the guys you're working out with, I mean, they're some of your best friends. So,
so you're actually controlled the whole time. You're not trying to physically hurt somebody when you're training.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point you want to, but you don't want to break your friend's jaw or something like. You know what I mean? It's like you guys are there for the same purpose.
It's Kyle's not your friend. Just wait. You don't want to break his jaw.
Dang.
Yeah,
it's messed up, dude.
But everybody, it's a hobby, and the more you do it, it doesn't seem like this violent act. It's. You watch. No one watches football and think, "Oh, it's violent." It's because these guys train. That's what they train for. They go out there. It's a job. It's fun, and a lot of these guys are probably in the NFL. If they weren't in the NFL, they'd probably still be playing. Because they enjoy it. And that's kind of how jiu-jitsu was and boxing was with me.
So how long did you train before you became an officer? Do you think?
I don't know, probably about 6-7 years.
And then what were those? Jiu-jitsu? Did you?
So I started out like in the submission grappling, but I didn't. It was hard. Then I went to a jiu-jitsu gym. So I started training jiu-jitsu for about a year. And then I started going to a Muay Thai gym. And then I started, I had a fight in Muay Thai. So I started training in that. And it was hard for me to try to do both. So it was kind of like there's spots in my life where I'm training stand-up or I'm training jiu-jitsu. But I typically wasn't training both. Even now, I'll do some stand-up, but mainly everything's jiu-jitsu now.
Well, I have a question. What can you just explain to everybody? What is the difference between jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai?
Muay Thai is just it's a striking. It's it's kickboxing. You're kicking to the legs. You're elbowing your knee. Okay. You can strike from the clinch in the clinch, whereas boxing you can't. You got to have that clean break. Mm-hmm. So. That's Muay Thai, where jiu-jitsu is it's going to be the takedowns, it's going to be the submissions and the groundwork.
So is it kind of similar to wrestling?
Yeah, it's very similar to wrestling. And you see a lot of these guys who are very good wrestlers end up being very good jiu-jitsu guys. Guys who wrestled in high school or in college, then, to keep that going, they start.
Okay. Transition to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you went from jiu-jitsu to Muay Thai. And then you train in both. Why did you go from one to the other?
Muay Thai is kind of like my first love. I like it. I've always enjoyed it. But as you get older, it's a little easier to train in jiu-jitsu than it is to train in Muay Thai. As you
fucking kicked and kneed.
Yeah, but I mean, jiu-jitsu is rough too, though. I've had my injuries. I ended up with a spiral fracture, my tibia and fibia, a couple years ago. It was actually 3 years ago this month. Spiral fracture on my tibia and fibia. It looked like a shattered candy cane. They had to rot it. They had to screw it back together. So
all because you wouldn't tap.
I didn't. The guy had me in a heel hook, and I didn't tap, and so my leg shattered. Yeah.
Was that in a competition or at training?
It's a Sunday morning.
Jesus Christ!
But I mean, it's he felt bad about it. I mean, it was my fault.
Yeah, you fucking shattered your leg. I'd feel bad too.
Yes. At the time.
At what point you're like, all right, dude, I know I'm about to snap your leg in half. Yeah, does that not happen at training?
But your
foot
is
backwards.
Yeah,
well, he's like, oh my God, I broke your leg. And I was like, no, you didn't break my leg. Because you like, you know, you get that adrenaline dump. You're like, how hurt am I? And you kind of do in a minute. And he's like, no, your leg's broke. And like everyone kind of stands up there like, we heard it. And I was like, fuck. Fuck. And then, you know, had to call the ambulance.
Yeah, I was going to say the ambulance.
Yeah, and they had to, you know, wheel me out, do surgery that night. And
damn, dude. That's brutal.
Shit. But you still train. You just have that passion for it.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't let this slow me down. I mean, it has slowed me down. It's affected me a lot.
You got yeah.
But I didn't want. Yeah, it's been a part of my life for too long where it's like
it's not gonna be you.
Yeah, it's. I couldn't imagine. I mean, a lot of it's friendship, like the friendships that you made at the, you know, going to jiu-jitsu and stuff. You're like, I want to keep that. It's hard to keep it when you're not training.
Yeah, true.
When you became a police officer, I mean, and you started getting into some scuffles or fights or like, you know, people that resist you or whatever, like, did you immediately just feel comfortable going hands-on with people? You know, given your background in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, like how did that affect you with the job of becoming a police officer?
Well, kind of, so I think any new officer, you kind of have your, as you're learning the job, you're like, what am I allowed to do? But basically, you know, you start learning, when it's appropriate to use certain levels of force. And as being a new officer, when I was doing that, you start, you know, I tried to be proactive. I tried to go out there and, you know, make arrests. So yeah, you get in foot pursuits, you get in somebody who, might be violent, but a lot of it is you're like, okay, well, you always have that in the back of your head. This person might be armed. This part, you know, what if they have a knife? What if they have a gun? But a lot of that is at some point I've got to take this guy into custody. I've got to go and this guy's not going to do it voluntarily. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get cuffs on this person.
Yeah.
So that's when that transition of, you know, position control, you know, to get that compliance ultimately, or just maybe I had to get more people there. But for the meantime, this guy, I'm stuck with this person, and I've got to try to control them, slow that fight down, and wait for others to get there, get this guy in custody.
Well, I think most of the issues that we see in law enforcement with use of force is, I'd say 90% of it is lack of training.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say the other 10% is an infamiliarity with violence. Mm-hmm. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
You know,
that's huge.
You know, violence is a term that people are like, oh, we don't want to use it, but there's a time to be violent and there's a time to not be violent. And that switch flips up and down real quick sometimes in law enforcement. So I think that's, you know, people who aren't willing to be violent. Cops need to be violent sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, I can't be violent towards this person. Well, you kind of have to be. And that's the way I look at it.
But they don't really teach you that in the academy, to be really aggressive and you're going to have to be violent. Like they teach the standing. We had talked earlier, standing, handcuffing, but they don't really go into like, hey, this guy is turning and he is fighting you, or this person is struggling to get away and you got to control that. They don't really teach you that.
Well, I mean, yeah, and they don't. And that's, we're going to beat the dead horse again, but you got to get your own training.
Totally.
Kind of thing. But other than that, it's, you know, if you're apprehensive to use violence, if you're putting handcuffs on a guy and he goes to turn on you and you're waiting for that person to turn on you, then you're getting into a situation where you could have, you know, we're going strikes, which look bad. Maybe we're getting into control holds and different things like that, going into ground fighting. Whereas if you start to feel that movement because you've recognized it before and you've trained in it, and you maybe just push away and get your distance and go to your taser or something else, or wait for your partners to show up.
Well, I think you touched on it right there. It's that recognition.
Yeah.
It's when you spend that time on the mat, whether you're wrestler or jiu-jitsu, and you start to feel this guy's, he was prone. Now I make contact with him. Now his arms, now he's building his base back up. He's going to try to get back up. Yeah. Being able to recognize that and cut it off and take control of that before next thing you know, the guy's back on his feet and the fight continues. Right. Try to you don't want a level playing field. You want to be in that advantage, but in trying to be able to make those reads prior to that, is crucial.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is I would say the vast majority of cops don't train that, and so when someone, there's a big difference between someone resisting and someone that's actively fighting you and trying to hurt you. I think cops confuse the two. Do you have someone that's okay? So when I say like someone actively trying to resist you, I mean like someone's trying to get away from you. They're trying to get away from you wrestling or whatever, right? So they may put up a little bit of a struggle, but they're trying to ultimately escape you. They don't want to fight you. They just want to get away from you, right? Run, right? Then you have the opposite, which I think doesn't happen as frequently, but then you have the person who physically wants to hurt you, and they're not trying to get away. They're trying to attack you and beat your ass or potentially kill you.
I think there is.
I think there's a vast difference in that, and a lot of cops mistake the two, right? And so I don't know if you agree with me or not, but
no, I do, because you got the people who want to put that distance between you and them,
yes,
because they're looking to get away,
yeah,
and then you have the people who are closing that distance because
they want to hurt you.
They want to physically, yeah, you're an armed person, and they're still advancing on you.
I've had it where you do a traffic stop, the guy's cooperative, getting out of the car, and then they physically fight you to the ground, and you're just like, you go from the mindset
when it becomes there is a huge difference once it becomes something. But at the beginning stage, it is the same, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah, the initial contact.
I'm not saying someone running away from me and someone fighting with me are the same. I'm saying at that beginning stage, there's not a huge difference. There is a difference still, and that's works on what you've done and what you've recognized and everything. But in the beginning stages, if you react appropriately quickly, you stop a fight and you stop a run at the same time. The same action can do the both. That's why I say there's not a huge amount of difference.
I think where cops get into a bad situation is where they're not expecting someone to physically attack them, because it doesn't happen all that often, but it does happen, right? Where someone wants to bring the fight to you. Right? Like we use that a lot in the canine world. Again, it's like when I send my dog out, I want my dog to go pick a fight with somebody. There's not a lot of bad guys out there that actually want to pick a fight with a cop. They want to get away and create the distance, like you said. But what gets cops in a bad situation is when that person does want to pick a fight with them and they do want to hurt them. And it may be in their mind that I'm going to kill you, and maybe I'm going to take your gun away from you and shoot you with it. There's a lot of videos out there where, suspects are actively resisting. They're assaulting the cop. They're probably getting the best of them. They're punching them in the face, and cops just have no idea how to defend themselves. They have no idea how to, use ground fighting to their advantage. And then ultimately they're getting themselves into these shootings where they're getting their ass beat, and then they have no other recourse to go to other than pulling their gun out and shooting them.
Well, and I think a lot of times too, when you're afraid, you're not willing to engage somebody, they make that read, and they're like, this guy's not going to grab me.
Like the bad guy.
Then it escalates from there, where is if you would have gone hands-on right away, if you're lawful to have the lawful right to detain this guy, you go hands-on right away, that can just let them knowing that you're willing to grab them, I think it's a game changer in itself. And sometimes they're always going to fight you, but when you sit there and you let it escalate, I mean, when me and Mark worked together, we'd pull up on somebody else's call and you'd see that this guy's, irate, yelling, no one's controlling this guy, walking back and forth. And it's like, this guy's on probation or something. Hey, this guy needs to be in a car, grab him, detain him. And the next thing you know, he's cool, easy to talk to, and run him, get him out of there. But it's the fact that people stand back and they're letting this person dictate what's going on. It puts a dangerous situation for everybody.
And that's a fear of policy, though. Policies are going towards that.
Not just policy. There is policies in it, but I think it's because a lot of people, and you said at the opening, people don't and have not been in fights. They haven't been in those physical altercations. They go through the academy and you're fighting someone that and then when you're done, they're done. Like they're not going to continue to fight you. And then when you go out on the street and you deal with a real person,
it's a shock.
It's a shock. You're afraid. You don't know how to take it. You don't know how much you can do. That person, you don't really at the beginning know if that person is trying to beat your ass or if they're trying to escape. And I think you did bring up a good point. When you've been in them after a while, you start to figure out this person is trying to get away. Mm-hmm. And that's a different type of a control of that person versus the one that's turning on you and trying to grab your nuts or grab your gun and wants to punch you. that's a total different type of fight. And I think that's the importance of reaching out and learning different type of ways to protect yourself.
Well, a lot of times you're talking about if someone's trying to escape from you or someone's actually actively trying to hurt you. Oftentimes you've got to face someone to fight them, right? And if someone's giving me their back and they're pulling, they're probably trying to put distance between an officer. They're trying to get away, but they're looking you dead in the eye and they've got their hands on you and, they're spitting in their tongue. I mean, they're there for the fight.
Yeah.
They've got to, chances are they've got to face you to fight you. And if you're looking at their back, they're trying to get away.
There's one incident, which we'll get into when you created the class. I had gone through it, but me and another officer had got this guy on the ground, and then he turned and was fighting us, and he grabbed my nuts, and I was punching him as hard as I could. And he was literally looking at me saying, "Oh, it's going to be like that." And if I didn't take your class, there'd be no way I could. I mean, it would have been I don't know, to be honest. But I think having that extra training.
But now we're going to a point in law enforcement where there are multiple agencies. I don't know if it's majority or whatever that are saying you shall not strike.
Yeah, I mean there are departments that are saying that,
and that's what I'm saying is now you took that away. Then okay, I can't strike this guy. I can't get a good control hold on him, and now this guy's punching me. I'm about to lose consciousness. Sorry, here we go. Now I can't strike, so I'm going to go to my gun. And
I do see what you're saying.
That's the stupidity that we have in law enforcement policy.
Yeah.
Our policies are horrible.
But I think that's why Jiu Jitsu needs to play a bigger role in law enforcement because, I think people think, oh, I do Jiu Jitsu or I've got to win. I'm going to win this fight. I'm going to win. Yeah, winning the fight is great, but you've got to survive. And it might take just slowing that fight down. Hey, I'm in a bad position. I might have to lock this guy down. But I've got to get out that radio traffic. I need people coming. I'm in a fight for my life at this point. I got somebody on top of me. I've already taken several shots. I've got to get that radio traffic out. And I've got to be able to slow that fight down so somebody else can get there and help me out. And it would be great like if, people started training, or officers started training jiu-jitsu and they were getting these bad situations and they're winning every fight. But the reality of it is you're oftentimes caught off guard. You're put in a bad situation. So you've got to slow that fight down and try to change the course of it.
And you got that though, right? From jiu-jitsu where you're always doing that and you're trying to, when you're doing jiu-jitsu, and I think people, just for clarification, people think that UFC fight is jiu-jitsu, and that's incorrect, right?
A majority of UFC fighting, is almost I'm sure everybody in the UFC trains jiu-jitsu.
Right.
They have a jiu-jitsu background at some point.
But for those that have trained it, when you go to the ground or when something's happening, it's normal or slow speed. Like if someone were just to attack you, you'd be caught off guard for a second, but then you could easily make that transition and know what you're doing and have like the mindset that's slower where other people might be racing, right?
It's not always, you say I could make that transition. It's not always easy. And there's certain positions that I might do on a mat that I would never want to do. I'd never want to be on my back on the street where someone's over me. I've got, I'm sandwiched between a suspect and concrete and my head's bouncing off the mat. I don't want to fight off my back. That was one thing in that class, the sprawl, like trying to keep that fight on your feet as long as you can to try to break this person's posture, get them down on the ground, get in that advantageous position and try to gain control, wear them out. But you've got to start thinking ahead. You can't be like, oh my God, I'm going to the ground. A lot of stuff, I think if you don't train jiu-jitsu, a lot of the stuff that you think is natural to do, like turn away from someone gets on your back, I'm going to turn away from them. I'm going to try to posture up where you should be trying to slow that fight down, not give up not give up the back. So a lot of times what you think should become natural, it might be wrong. And you're not going to get that unless you train that, unless you're put in those positions, unless you actually practice that.
Okay, we had to take a quick break, Billy. Billy, I actually just had to get called out, so we're going to continue the show without him.
Yeah, it's an important topic.
It's super important, and I have a question, and that is, I know there's a lot of controversy with departments and wanting to teach jiu-jitsu. They don't want to teach jiu-jitsu. They, a lot of departments just flat out don't want to teach officers, fighting. They don't want to teach them ground fighting. I think the word fighting to them just sounds, violent. I guess my biggest takeaway, what I want to know is, in your opinion, you're a police officer for a long time. You worked at a busy.
I was.
Yeah, you were. but you worked at a busy, big department. You've trained fighting the vast majority of your adult life, and you've been in several confrontations. You've been in lethal confrontations. I want to know from your perspective, like, how important is this stuff? And, what do cops need to be educated on ground fighting to defend themselves, even if it is just to, maybe put someone in some type of move where they can get on their radio and get back up there to help them take someone into custody. How important is it, and how uneducated is the law enforcement community in ground fighting?
As far as importance, I believe it's something that it keeps training in something like jiu-jitsu, or having a background in jiu-jitsu and in wrestling. You are less of a risk to those around you and to the general public when you're able to control a combative subject.
Okay.
All right.
And especially in a day and time now where everything is videoed, whether that's body camera, whether that's someone on the iPhone or surveillance, the optics of jiu-jitsu, there might be a point where, pugilistic strikes are acceptable. And maybe that falls within your department policy. But how does that look on the news? And a lot of it is optics now. The departments are so afraid of it could be completely justified, but they are scared to death of what it looks like on the news. So when you're able to control somebody, whether that's using jiu-jitsu or some other technique, you are able to try to, you're safer as an officer, but you're safer to the general public as well, because that fight is something that you can kind of control.
Yeah.
Or slow down till others can get there, till you can get this guy in custody or person in custody. But I think when we were doing it, and I taught the post course, it was a 40-hour post course that we co-authored, got approved by California Post. I taught it for 10 years. You'd get a lot of people coming through there, a lot of different backgrounds, and a lot of the questions that we get from these other defensive tactics instructors from other departments. Well, how did you guys get this approved? And I think ours was very unique because it started with upper management. They saw the need for it. They reached out to us. We were able to get together, write this course, and start teaching it. And I don't know that would have happened anywhere else, because most people, when they come through the course and they were defensive tactics instructors, they would say, how did you guys get this approved? Well, it started from above. We didn't have to try to pitch it. They came to us. And they saw that we had a unique skill set. We could apply that. And, we had to put on like a little demo and show some stuff. But in talking to other officers, a lot of the resistance is upper management or somebody who's in place who might be a use of force instructor for their department, but this person doesn't have the background, but they don't want to give up that position, right? Mm-hmm. I've been a use of force instructor for 27 years. But never trained a jiu-jitsu, never wrestled, never boxed in life, but they took a class to teach a class, but now they don't want to give up that position, so they don't want to bring anything else in. And that's a lot of the opposition that a lot of these departments are facing.
So you with a couple guys from that department actually created a defensive tactics class around protecting yourself, and then it came from upper management?
Well, the situation happened. We ended up with three officers, three just separate incidents. Within 2 days, all ended up in the hospital. And they said, what is going on here? We've got to do something, offer more. Mm-hmm. So they reached out to us. We were able to put together this course, present it to them, and their caveat was it's got to be post approved. So we pitched it to Post. We got it approved, and we're able to start teaching it. It was a 40-hour course. We taught it over 4 days. And it combined, your jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and boxing.
Now being a law enforcement podcast, and most of our listeners are probably in law enforcement. What would be the difference between going to a gym, not knowing anything about law enforcement, throwing on a gi, rolling around on a mat, versus a cop out on the street wearing a full uniform, duty belt, firearm on his side, gets in an altercation? There has to be a difference in approaching tactics in teaching jiu-jitsu to cops versus just normal citizens.
There is, because obviously you like you said, there's always a gun in the fight, right? Because you're armed, and possibly somebody else is too. But just the body mechanics of it, you trying to move, to get off the ground. Well, you got a vest on, you got a radio, you're trying to get your hips out, you're trying to get up on a hip. You have a gun on one side, a walkie-talkie on the other. Mm-hmm. Your body is not, you're not in a gi or gym shorts. Yeah. You're weighed down with 35 pounds of gear. Now, that being said, you should, I believe at some point you should always try. We would teach without the gear on, and then start implementing small parts of the gear. So as you learn the technique, not to be overwhelmed, then like final scenario stuff, you start wearing your gi so you get the feel. Or not the gi, you start wearing your gear. But that being said, if your department doesn't offer that and you need to go out and you start training at these jiu-jitsu gyms, after you start taking these classes, you realize what will work, what you can take. It's like having that toolbox. Mm-hmm. The hammer's not the fix all. Sure. There's certain tools for certain jobs, and that's the same thing with jiu-jitsu and wrestling. You can pick and choose. Hey, this is what I need. This is the situation I've been in. But that being said, you're putting in that mat time. You're getting that familiarity with someone being on top of you, close quarters. What do I do from here? Because at first, when you start going, you're kind of it's overwhelming, right? Mm-hmm. You're put in kind of strange positions. People are uncomfortable. But after a while, you start getting, I've been here before. I know how to fight out of this.
So you don't kind of get in that panic mode. And I think that's where a lot of cops shut down, is they get someone on top of them and they're like, holy shit, I'm not used to this. And they get in that panic mode. They stress out, then they kind of start shutting down at that point. So
yeah, you could hear when we taught the class, we'd start out with, our introduction, but then we'd do a roll, kind of see where everyone was. You kind of go down the line, you roll with the instructors. And you'd start maybe kind of put them in a mounted position, and you'd hear the breathing start to escalate, and they start to panic, and they start reaching up at you, and they're trying to push you off from the chest. But what's connected to? It's my hips that's connected to you. And you're reaching up my chest, so I'm going to stay on you. And next thing you know, they flip to their stomach. So they're giving up their back, and they're trying to build their base back up, where a lot of the stuff, like I said earlier, a lot of stuff that you would think would be instinctive might be wrong. And you don't want to learn that in a potentially deadly situation.
Yeah, you don't want to learn that firsthand on the street.
Well, I think you had your first class in 2010 maybe?
Yeah, I think we got it. I think we started writing it in 2009, got it approved, and started teaching in 2010.
So I did go through, I was one of the first few people, the group of, I don't know, 10 or something that went through your first class. And it was mind-blowing and life-changing for my own personal safety as a cop, because I was super confident anyways. But you guys did a really good job, and it was really slow, and you learned the principles without gear on. And then like you said, as you went, then you incorporated your duty belt, and it was like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm on my back. I can't move over to my hip. That's not an option. I got to train a different way. And then the scenarios slowly ramp up. And then at one point I'd been in a legit situation where if it wasn't for that class, that dude probably would have killed me. And I remember I wrote a letter to management thanking them for that opportunity to take the class. And I think you guys, you and the other couple officers, which I wish we could name, but unfortunately we can't at this point, and they know who they are, to credit that to save my life. And I guarantee you guys, when you've taught that class, you've saved others. You've got to take something else.
Well, but in a lot of that, teaching that class it's a 40-hour class, right? You kind of gauge it against yourself. Can I give myself from Monday to Thursday or Friday, would I give myself a better fight? I'm not looking at, you're coming in, no one's going to be some jiu-jitsu expert at. They're literally, you go over the simple basics, put them in the, the mount escape, side body escape, get back to your feet, access your weapon system, create that distance, over and over and over again, so that when they're in those situations, it almost becomes instinctive. And you don't want that to happen in a violent encounter. What do I do? What do I do? Mm-hmm. But even if your department doesn't offer that, there are still jiu-jitsu places that cater to that stuff. And we have one here locally, Granite Bay Jiu Jitsu. They do a police jiu-jitsu program. Ryan, he runs a school. It's an awesome school. A lot of law enforcement train there. I know I'm plugging somebody, but
no, go ahead.
Yeah, he deserves it. He deserves it. He's protecting cops.
He's great. It's if you're looking to get involved in it and you're looking to, maybe you can't do, a 40-hour week, but you can make, a 1 hour class or 2 hour class. Anytime that you get on that mat that you're going to be able to start honing your skills and being put in new positions where you're starting to learn from, it's needed, especially as you see attacks on cops more and more every year.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about it a few times. You're only getting the minimal training within agencies, and then to have different options and to seek that stuff out, you're protecting yourself.
Well, let's all three be honest. We've all been cops for a long time, and I know you guys are retired now, but nonetheless, you still did the job for a long time. We are taught the most below basic stuff when it comes to controlling somebody in some type of resistance encounter. Usually what we're taught is someone that's actually compliant with you and how to put them in wrist locks and twist locks and stuff. But the moment someone is resisting you, that stuff just doesn't work. And then cops are just like, well, now what do I do? They just don't know what to do.
But, and I think there's certain things that need to be taught. Like, there's certain things that are taught that seem kind of like the shotgun takeaway. Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever done that? I'd love to.
Jesus,
I'd love to see that.
That was stupid.
Happen. But take that section out of post. But one of the big things that we were teaching in the class is you watch UFC, you watch WWF, the sleeper hold. Everybody, the rear naked choke, the sleeper hold. And even in, when they were teaching it in California, they would show the application of it, but they never taught the defense. And that is something that, you see little kids,
trying to choke.
And that is one of the biggest dangers to a cop is for someone to get a hold of their neck, choke them unconscious. Yeah. And now what happens is, now they got your gun.
Yeah. You can have everything.
Teaching the defense to something like that, I think, is huge. And that was something that we would concentrate a lot on in that class is you take that back position, you start trying to get around their neck and, teach the defense of that, because that right there is something that could save somebody's life.
I think more, we're focusing so heavily on law enforcement and being educated on this stuff. I think also more importantly, I think the public needs to be educated on this stuff, and they need to understand that, like, hey, if cops are trained this stuff, then it's like you just said it. It's safer for us, but it's safer for them. It's safer for everybody, right? Like there probably would be less officer involved shootings when it comes to ground fighting stuff, because cops would be educated on how to defend themselves and be able to wrap somebody up and put them in a move and wait for, their partners to show up. So I do think it's important too that the public is also educated on it. But I think when you talk about like fighting and jiu-jitsu and all this stuff as it relates to cops, people automatically, their brains go to UFC fighting in the octagon and what they see on TV and guys just basically beating the shit out of each other. And I truly think that when we talk about this in a public setting, people's minds go there. And then they start thinking, well, now we're training cops to just go out and beat the piss out of people. That's my opinion.
I think you're absolutely right, because sometimes you have a hard time just getting that message across in the department through management. People who, this is a post-approved course. This is something that officers are needing. These are something that officers are saying, this has worked for me. In this encounter, giving specific examples, and they're like, I don't know. Yeah, but that seems, I don't like that.
Yeah. You did bring up, and you breezed over it, and I want to highlight it, that there are officers that are in those positions that are in charge of training, or they say, like you said, their defensive tactics, and you've not only this class, but you've put on lots of other training classes and taught other agencies and outside agencies. And they say, I'm the defensive tactics instructor, I'm the ACB instructor, I'm this, I'm that. And I never really thought anything of it until we pre-talked, and you said, what is their background and why are they qualified to teach that? And a lot of them are not. And like you said, they don't want to give up those positions, and they don't know, okay, I don't want to teach this because I don't know it, so I'm not going to do it.
Well, and a lot of that too is when you're instructing, you're there for the students, right? And so there's always going to be that question and answer. There's going to be that dialogue. Well, I had this happen to me. What should I do here? That, you know, and a lot of that was, you know, you got to be honest with it. If someone asks a question, you're like, you know what? We had a girl. She was my old partner. She's like, well, I had this lady grab me by my ponytail, and I was on the, you know, and it started this whole scenario. None of us have ponytails, so it's something that we don't really give a lot of thought to. But you got to switch gears, be able to try to, you know, answer that question, relate to it, and still be able to give them an option that falls within policy. But if you have someone who doesn't train in, you know, jiu-jitsu, but they took a class. I took a class to teach this class. How are they going to answer you anything when they don't have a background? They don't constantly train in something, and they don't have like the passion for it. Where a lot of it, if someone asked me, like, you know what, we had, you know, I was one of the jiu-jitsu guys, but we had a lot of guys who were better than me. Be like, I'm not going to hog that question. I'm going to divert that to one of these other guys who are, you know, much better at it than me, and, you know. Hey, I'll be honest. I don't know, but you know what? I'll find the answer out for you. We'll round table it. We'll start working through it, and we'll get you that answer.
Yeah, and when we talk about, you know, the classes that we teach, you know, on our own through the training business, like I say the same thing. You know, it's like you really should vet out some of these people that you're being trained by, because there are some people out there that do not have the credibility to be teaching what they're teaching. You know, maybe they read a book, or like maybe they had. They went to a class, like you said, like a train the trainer class. And then it's like all of a sudden, like they're the expert. Like, man, that's such garbage, because, you know, guys fall for that stuff, or gals fall for that stuff. And it's kind of sad, because there are people out there that are very credible in their niche. And like, they are the experts in the field that they're teaching. So you said it, like, I would vet out who you're getting training from. I think that is so important.
You should be asking questions.
You should be asking questions, yeah,
to the trainers, to the people that are putting on the class, and not being a dick about it. But
if you have a question about something, ask the question, and what is their response to that question? If they, you know, are, like you said, are they like saying, hey, I know somebody that's better in that field or whatever, like, I will get you the answer. You know, versus someone that kind of blows smoke up your ass, and then you don't even get an answer, and they're not trying to find out an answer for you, but they're just trying not to kill their own credibility. And so, like, it's kind of swept under a rug. Like, that's when red flags should be going up, being like, okay, well, what is your credibility in this whole thing?
Well, in the 10 years I taught that class, we learned so much by that dialogue, where, you know, for introductions, you know, we give the introductions, give a little bit of our background, go around the room, get their background, have them introduce themselves, what they're there for, what they expect to learn. But a lot of times people already start asking questions. You know what, this happened to me, and that, you know, it scared me enough that I signed up for this class. And it's like, in teaching that class, it's a 40-hour class. It's just there to give you a little sample of, hopefully, spark an interest that you're going to go out and seek more training. Because it's, you know, it's like anything else. You were probably never a better shot than when you got out of the academy. But then, because you did shooting all the time. Well, you know, you got familiar for 40 hours on the mat, but now you're not going to do it. You've got to continue that training. You know, you've got to continue. We had people sign up for the class multiple times, you know, like once a year. And it was great. But with that, you've got to get that training. There's other places to get it if you're not getting it at your department.
Can you plug the, oh, sorry, did I mean to cut you off? I was going to say, can you plug the what is it? Sponsor a cop that pays for,
Adopt a Cop?
I'm sorry, Adopt a Cop that pays for active law enforcement memberships for jiu-jitsu up until their, I think it's what, blue belts?
I'm not sure how the program works. I know Ryan at Granite Bay, he's part of that program. So I don't have that answer for you, but I can get it for you.
Okay. Nice.
I've talked to a buddy who's involved with it, and you guys can check it out. We can put it in the description of this video, but it's Adopt a Cop, and I think they're operated out of the East Coast. And essentially, if you find a gym that honors it, they will pay for your jiu-jitsu membership up until you're a blue belt. You know, obviously there's some guidelines that you have to adhere by, but what a cool thing, man. I mean, like, a lot of people don't do extracurricular activities because maybe they just can't afford it, right? Like, maybe they can't afford the gym membership. Like you said, Ryan from this Granite Bay gym, like, he's offering that to police officers, right? Like, you should take advantage of it.
He's very law enforcement friendly. The clientele in there are great. You know, I can't say enough good things about him.
You want to plug, what's the name of his gym?
Granite Bay Jiu Jitsu.
Okay.
So when he's been saying Granite Bay Jiu Jitsu, that's the gym that is. Okay, that's the gym he's talking about.
Damn it. I missed that part. I thought he was just describing where it was, but
it's Granite Bay Jiu Jitsu. So.
That's really cool.
Well, I think it's really important that you seek additional training because I've said it before. You only get bare minimal training, and there's agencies across the country that get no additional training. And you're talking about your life. When you walk out that door and you have done the bare minimum and you get in a situation and you get your ass kicked, I hope you don't, but you do. And maybe worse, your family and your friends and your officers and coworkers are left there watching thinking you made no attempt to protect yourself. You never tried to better yourself, and you have a family at home.
Well, at that point, you're just hoping it works out for you, and that's just the wrong mentality to have.
Well, and the thing we offered that class for free. It was like $99 to outside agencies. For several years, we had a hard time filling the class, and we tried to do it where we had 5 instructors, and we'd have usually with 10 to 12 students because we didn't let the students roll with each other because that's how
for obvious reasons. Yeah.
So, but we'd have a hard time. We'd have to cancel classes because people wouldn't sign up for it.
That's crazy.
And it was like, until the department started hiring again and we're getting the young blood back in there and they're like, a little more enthusiastic for it. Yeah. And we started training some of that stuff incorporated into the academy. We weren't getting people. People wouldn't sign up for it. And it's, you
got to protect yourself.
I think what it comes down to, dude, is, do you think it's mandatory that all police officers go through a level of training with jiu-jitsu?
I think the problem I have with making something mandatory is you're always going to have somebody who doesn't want to be there. Yeah. Sometimes several people. And when you do, they kind of take your attention away from people who do want to be there. So opposed to me trying to convince this guy, this works, that you should be here, this will help you out. And they're like,
thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, you were supposed to show up in, gym clothes and you're wearing jeans and cowboy boots. Like I know literally when you walked in the room, you didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
So you're spending your time trying to convince this person when you should be concentrating on those who are there. They're there to learn. I think how we did it was the stuff that we started that we find worked well, especially like the karate control, the defense to it. You start incorporating that in the academy. So we're teaching this class, getting it taught into the academy, so it's nothing new to them. We'd have we'd have a pugilistics day, 2 days actually, and then we'd have a ground day, and that way these people are younger, they're coming out, they want training, where you start to get people who are a little bit senior, maybe a little bit salty. No, I'm not going to do that. So you almost got to concentrate on those who want to be there, and if you don't want the training, then that's fine.
I like what you're saying because it's something not super new, but it is in law enforcement. And by starting back at the academy, you're going to have like that control group right now.
Foundation.
Yeah, that's not going to give a shit or a couple guys do it. But you start that, ingrain that into the academy, it's going to build. And then slowly the whole culture of the department is doing that.
Well, and you start, I would almost guarantee that every department throughout the nation, you got somebody who was a good high school wrestler, maybe even a college level wrestler. They do jiu-jitsu. You have these people in place that you could reach out to and have them start teaching these classes, but they're probably meeting some resistance
at the top.
Yeah. Yes,
that's generally the case. Yeah,
but that's where you have to be able to sell it, and you guys were successful in that.
But that being said, like I said, it started with upper management, and I think that's why we were able to be successful with it. But if you're not, you got to reach out. You could throw a dart on the map, and jiu-jitsu is so popular nowadays. Wherever we're at, there's probably 10 jiu-jitsu schools, right? That I drove past to get here today. Yeah. There's training available in the town that you live in. You can take it and you can apply it within you can apply that skill set within your policies.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up, what do you think your greatest accomplishment in fighting has been to date?
Probably controlling myself around Mark.
Not beating Mark's ass. No, seriously. Like, is there like a specific fight? What's been your greatest accomplishment? As a fighter, like what has it been for you? So when I was fighting Muay Thai, I went back
had fought a guy. I had lost to him by split decision on one promotion. They flew me back out there to fight him on another one.
Where's there? Where was this?
Colorado.
Okay, Colorado.
So went out there to fight him for the Rocky Mountain Bad Boys title and an ISK title. So the ISK title was like a Rocky Mountain regional one. So I beat him, and then they're like, "We can't give you the ISK title because you're not from around here." I said, "But you knew that when you booked this."
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I would have won 2 belts in one night. I settled for one.
They didn't want a California boy winning the Colorado title.
I hadn't been out in California that long, but apparently long enough they booked the fight. They wouldn't recognize it once I won. So,
That's
but no,
cool,
it was probably some of the friendships I made though too. It's just like law enforcement. You know, you're around the same group of guys all the time. You know, same people you hang out with outside of family.
Well, I would say because we did work together a long time, we've been through a ton of stuff, got a lot of funny stories, and we'll have you back for some other ones. But there was one thing that I'd always told my wife is that when I go to work and I am partnered with you and making all entries and all this stuff, there is nothing you would ever need to worry about because I will be okay. And if I'm not, he's going to drag me out. And I think that's the benefit of having a good partner. And you're a humble guy anyways, but you were a badass, and to see some of the stuff that you're involved in and to witness it, to be a part of some of that, and you were so controlled all the time, it's admirable. So anybody that had learned and taken any classes from you, they've taken more than you could probably imagine.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's really cool. I think this is such a bigger topic that we should spend a long time talking about, and I think we'll probably dabble more into this conversation.
Yeah, a couple of weeks maybe, do another one.
I mean, man, it's such a popular thing right now, and in talking to you and getting your insight, like it's just I think it needs to be talked about more within our community and law enforcement. So I would say expect us to talk about this more. We'll get some more guests on that are involved in jiu-jitsu and get their perspective on it. But dude, thanks for coming and sharing your insight, because you know a whole hell of a lot more than we do. And obviously people are interested in this topic, and I think they need to know about this topic. And I think we just should keep talking about it.
I appreciate the opportunity to come on here. I know I'm not a cop anymore, but it's something I'm still very passionate about, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on here. But I could keep talking all night about it, because it's something that, I feel strongly about. And I hope, like I said, the people who are taking that training, you don't need to worry about them, because they're doing what they need to do. It's trying to get those who are hesitant about it, and try to get them the time and the instruction that they need.
Yeah. And I like how you said there, you can throw a dart anywhere and you can probably land on 10 different jiu-jitsu gyms now. They're everywhere. So there shouldn't be an excuse of like, well, I don't have those gyms around me. Like, no, it's there. You just go out and find it. There are programs out there like Adopt a Cop that we mentioned earlier, and they will pay for your gym membership. So the excuses start to kind of like dwindle more and more and more. It just comes down to how bad do you want it, and how bad do you want to be successful in, your career. And God forbid something bad happens to you at work. Like, do you want to survive through it? Like, that's what you have to ask yourself.
And I think you hit on it right there. A lot of people who are taking the class, something bad had already happened to them. And it's like, I feel like maybe if you would have sought that training first, you might have a different outlook on things.
You're right. And we phoned somebody last week, my buddy, Rich Hartman, retired law enforcement officer for 26 years. And he's pretty heavy into jiu-jitsu, and that's exactly why he started doing jiu-jitsu, because at his agency, he was getting his ass kicked, and very uncomfortable for him. And it scared the shit out of him enough to where he's heavily involved in it. And you're right, dude. You should never wait until something bad happens to you to for it to click in your head. Like, I should probably be well-versed in this topic, given that it's your profession. That's what you do for a living. So great advice.
Think about what words of wisdom you want to give somebody. Think about that for a sec. I'm going to plug a couple things and then we'll come back to you. Check out SWATconference.org. They have a conference coming up the end of this, into next month, into April. And then check out fieldsurvivaltraining.com and go on there and sign up for the classes. There's a couple classes. We already have some booked out that are not on there, and then more are to come. We're working on a couple different ones. So check out fieldsurvivaltraining.com.
Yeah. I'll be headed out to Texas here. Let's see, end of May to speak at a conference, and then a couple other classes that I've got going on. So, and then you have yours in May.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, on the drive over here, I was talking to one of our good buddies, bouncing some things off him like I often do. And we were talking, and so I'm not going to take credit for it. It was his words. He was talking about getting people to start jiu-jitsu. You know, a lot of people, especially you might be 10 years into your career. You know, you're 35 years old now, you know, and it sucks learning something new like that where you end up with bumps and bruises. And, you know, when you start this, you don't have to go roll with the 20-year-old guy in the class. There are other people in there that are still career people who are there to learn and aren't going to go 100 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. So when you start that training, pick those people as your training partner. Don't go with some guy who you're afraid might end up injuring you because, you know, he
wants to go all out.
Yeah, he's all out. He's much younger. He's fat. He's training for a competition. Go with these people who kind of, you know, hey, I gotta get up and go to work tomorrow morning. Let's, you know,
old guys.
Let's take this slow. Yeah. And that's where you're gonna learn. That's where you're gonna see your growth, and that's what's gonna keep you coming back.
I like it. Nice. Good advice, because I think that's a lot of scare for a lot of people. Is they don't want to get hurt. You know, they talk about like they rolled with someone that went 110%. You're like, whoa, dude, like, you know, I have to go to work every day. So that's a good point. Well, I say we ended on that. Unless, Mark, you have anything else to add?
No, just end it on toast.
Yeah,
it's an honor to have you.
Patrick, dude, thanks for coming in. Man, I learned a lot, honestly, just from sitting here talking to you. It's kind of lit a fire under my ass to go out and seek this type of training. You know, I'm still active in the job, and so I feel like, dude, I need this training as well. You know, I'd be naive to say that I don't, even though I have 15 years on, right? And I am, I guess, in a management role as a supervisor, but, you know, I do go out and work the streets, and I'm interacting with people every day on calls and stuff, you know, and so I could very easily myself end up in a very bad situation. So, yeah, thanks, dude. Hope you guys got something out of it. And I guess we'll see you on the next one. So, cheers.
Hey, 49, shot fired. Copy, additional shot fired. Shot fired, shooting at us. Suspect shooting an officer.